The charisma and wit of the Rat Pack have mesmerized audiences around the globe for many years. However, untold stories lie beneath the surface of all the glitter and glamour. Hollywood legend Ernest Borgnine has finally spoken up about the mysterious Dean Martin. Behind his charming facade, what was Martin like? Had Borgnine been privy to any secrets? Get ready to learn the hidden facts of a friendship that changed Hollywood forever. Your entire understanding of the King of Cool is about to be shattered by this shocking revelation. The connection between Ernest Borgnine and Dean Martin needs to be addressed first. Borgnine has exceptional acting skills. He's likely thinking, this must be a musical since Frank Sinatra is in it when he's on set of the epic film From Here to Eternity. In any case, he had an unforgettable experience with Dean Martin while filming. After Borgnine announces, "I'm walking off the set," Dean Martin enters the stage and announces to the crowd, "Now there's an actor." It dawns on him at that same moment. The compliment was genuine, Dean hadn't been drinking. Here we go again. Who on earth was this Dean Martin dude? It wasn't easy for this Ohioan, who was born Dino Pellucci. He spoke Italian at home and had a hard time picking up English in class. He went so far as to quit. Do you think it's real? Breaking the rules, nevertheless, can yield some of the most compelling stories. From boxing to bootlegging, he dabbled in everything. Entering the ring as Kid Crochet, he went so far as to defend himself. At last, he discovers his musical rhythm. As soon as he begins singing, everyone take notice, and he quickly leaves. Then, though, World War II strikes. Fortunately, he is dismissed early from the military and returns to the entertainment industry after being enlisted. And that is the role that Jerry Lewis plays. Meet the unpredictable comedian Jerry Lewis. He's Dean Martin, the suave operator. In Sparks Fly, they end up meeting at a nightclub. As the saying goes, the rest is history once they become this legendary duo. Now we move on to the musical comedy show that Dean and Jerry, this dynamic pair, put together. Jerry, the physical comedy king, and Dean, the silk vocalist. They went hand in hand like cold and fire. Their first public performance was at Atlantic City's 500 Club. As far as standing ovations go, it wasn't exactly that. Instead of being entertained, the audience appeared bewildered. If they didn't improve, the club owner, Skinny D'Amato, practically threatened to fire them. But these men showed remarkable strength. They retreated to the drawing board and returned with a vengeance. They performed a spectacular second show. Jerry would cut Dean mid-song off in the middle of his song, leading to a humorous stage chase. Afterwards, there was this scene where Jerry, who played the role of an awkward waiter, would interrupt Dean's act, scattering plates and causing general mayhem. Everyone in the crowd lost it. Their star power skyrocketed. They quickly became famous, going so far as to appear on The Ed Sullivan Show. When they realized they needed to step it up a notch, they enlisted the aid of some brilliant writers to develop their act. Optimism was high. At the time, $75,000 was a fortune, so they inked a lucrative radio agreement with Paramount. However, there were obstacles on the path to achievement. Tensions between Dean and Jerry began to rise. Jerry, in Dean's opinion, was overly prominent, and the emphasis was on the slapstick rather than the music. Their contract with Paramount essentially limited their ability to pursue other opportunities, notwithstanding his desires. At that point, everything started to go downhill rapidly. The narrative was incredibly pitiful. Picture yourself and your best friend performing on a stage. The audience goes absolutely bonkers, and suddenly, out of nowhere, your likeness disappears from a magazine cover. That's essentially what occurred to Jerry Lewis and Dean Martin, the two comedians. Dean felt completely ignored by Jerry, which severely damaged their friendship. These two were a powerful combination. After their wild and outrageous three-ring circus act in 1954, everything fell apart. Guess who was eerily absent from the snap, despite though they landed a magazine spread? Hello, Dean. Dean, infuriated, decided he'd had sufficient. He made it clear that he was done with Paramount and Jerry. He made a beeline for the exit as soon as his contract expired. Everyone now assumed Dean was going to have a catastrophic failure. Aside from Jerry, he's useless, they mocked. Thankfully, Dean disproved their claims. He decided to pursue music full-time and went solo. And his singing was top-notch. It's love. This is what people remember. someone is loved by everyone. It was really mind-blowing. Still, Dean wasn't satisfied with his role as a singer. He aspired to be a famous actor. Oh, how he struggled. However, his acting career in the beginning was, shall we say, uneventful. Next, in 1958, we had The Young Lions. With the success of this military film, Dean found himself thrust back into the limelight. John Wayne, Ricky Nelson, and everyone else from Hollywood were mingling with him. A Golden Globe nomination came his way as well. Dean was in a league of his own thereafter. Aside from producing a few films, he was in a ton of them. An icon, he became a legend. The Rat Pack should also be remembered. It was Frank Sinatra, Dean. I Am Sammy Davis Jr. These men were the epitome of wild revelers. They wowed audiences with their songs, jokes, and charisma at every performance. This was the first of its kind in Las Vegas. The Dean Martin program joined the crew shortly after. Imagine it as the pinnacle of relaxing television. Dean, who looked dashing in a suit, would engage in lively conversation with visitors, crack a few jokes, some might say too many, and make everyone laugh. Everyone loved it. Despite the fact that NBC's censors were often picking on him. But behind the scenes, Dean was a loving family guy, despite his reputation as a playboy. He had deep affection for his family. According to his pals, he wasn't really a heavy drinker, unlike how he seemed on TV. Finally, after all these years, Dean and Jerry put their differences aside. They were deeply moved by the moment. From that point on, everything ran nicely until Dean's terrible tragedy. The tragic plane tragedy that killed Dean Paul Martin's son in March 1987 devastated crooner Dean Martin. It was a tragic event that affected Dean deeply, especially because he was flying with the Air National Guard. Truly, he went downhill, became depressed, and sought solace in the bottle. His longtime friend Frank Sinatra attempted to lift his spirits by taking him on tour, but it was like attempting to extinguish a fire with gasoline. With his mouth agape over his cigarette, Dean remained fixated on his bottle. When it came to smoking, his years of habitual smoking had finally taken their toll. He was informed that he had lung cancer in 1993. Despite the availability of surgery, Dean's obstinate heart refused it. He spent more time with his loved ones, hid from the limelight, and eventually disappeared. He was 78 years old when he tragically died on Christmas Day, 1995. The passing of this legend was felt by people all across the globe. The lights on the Las Vegas Strip were even turned down to pay tribute to him. He quit the road from being an illiterate youth to being a worldwide phenomenon. After introducing Dean Martin, let's talk about their relationship and what transpired between them and Borgnine. In his own words, Borgnine provided us a look into their friendship, revealing a side of Dean beyond his Rat Pack swagger and sophisticated image. Dino was more than meets the eye, he was a trustworthy friend and a devoted companion. Moving on, let's discuss Ernie. Hermes Ephron Borgnine, the man's given name, came from modest beginnings. The son of Italian immigrants, he spent his childhood in a working-class household in Connecticut. He did what any patriotic American would have done after finishing high school, he enlisted in the Navy. And as soon as the second one landed, he was back in his uniform, ready to serve his nation. After returning from the war, Ernie felt disoriented and unsure of his life's direction. Manufacturing wasn't exactly Ernest Borgnine's strong suit. He quickly came to that realization. His mother, fortunately, could see his abilities more clearly. "You never fail to embarrass yourself in public," she finally told him. Why not make money doing it? Ernest, though, had a revelation that most kids would find annoying. He was seated at the kitchen table when an epiphany struck him. After gaining his footing in Hartford's Randall School of Drama, he moved on to Virginia's Barter Theater a decade later. A hidden treasure, this spot. It was a way for people to exchange goods like eggs and apples for tickets during the Great Depression. In 1947, he made his acting debut in the film State of the Union. Even though his role was little, the public adored him. With his performance as the gentleman caller and his demonstration of dramatic prowess in Tennessee Williams' The Glass Menagerie, he maintained the momentum. He was prepared to go to New York City by 1949. After making his Broadway debut in the role of a nurse in Harvey, he went on to star in television shows. His Video Rangers and Captain Video were his first gigs. Do you think that sounds silly? However, the floodgates were unlocked. All throughout the place, he appeared. He appeared on countless shows, including Goodyear Television Playhouse, Laramie, and Fireside Theater. Not long after that, Hollywood began contacting. And 1951's The Whistle at Eaton Falls was his film debut. His breakthrough, though? Acting as the villainous Sergeant Fatso Judson in the film From Here to Eternity. With the Best Picture Oscar and critical acclaim, Ernest was finally recognized. Borgnine was not frightened to play the villain now. He appeared in several films as villains, including Johnny Guitar and Vera Cruz, but 1955 was the year he truly broke through. Everyone fell head over heels for him after seeing him in Marty as the charming and timid butcher. Borgnine won the Oscar after the picture won big at Cannes, where it competed against Frank Sinatra and James Dean, two Oscar heavyweights. In fact, he was presented both a Golden Globe and a BAFTA. Wow, he has really come a long way since his Captain Video days. Fame on television followed. He became a member of the motley crew of miscreants in the 1962 sitcom McHale's Navy, which was set during World War II. Ernest portrayed Quentin McHale, the stern yet endearing captain who reigned in his eccentric crew. The show's popularity was immediate. By the end of its first season, it had cracked the top 30. He received an Emmy nomination and was beloved by fans. However, the show concluded in 1966 after 4 seasons since the humor became a bit old. But Borgnine's career kept going strong. He seemed to pop up out of nowhere for the following 30 years. The Dirty Dozen, Escape from New York, and The Poseidon Adventure were among his big-screen appearances. In the morally charged western The Wild Bunch, he even portrayed the role of Dutch. Every picture should have a moral. Borgnine added afterwards, the bad folks used to always get what they deserved. It appears that they are now in charge. On TV, with Ernie, the pastor? Even in that, he was unstoppable. Little House on the Prairie, Magnum, P.I., The Love Boat, Touched by an Angel. You would see his face on every channel you turned. After that, Borgnine was in high demand for just about every role in Hollywood. Everything from dramas to comedy to westerns. It was perfect. He continued to work well into his twilight years, making a triumphant return to the last episodes of ER. There was no sign of Ernest Borgnine slowing down throughout his famous career. Returning to Universal Studios in 1983, he co-starred with Jan Michael Vincent in the smash television series Airwolf. Following his wrestling performance on Magnum in 1982, producer Donald P. Belisario personally extended an invitation to him. Dominic Santini is a charming helicopter pilot, and P.I. Borgnine gladly accepted the part. Borgnine worked himself to death behind the scenes, despite the show's massive success. His younger co-star and the demanding schedule could have worn him down. You'd think that when CBS canceled the sitcom in 1986, Borgnine got a much-needed respite. The year was 1989, and Borgnine and Brandon Lee were heading to Namibia to film Laser Mission. The film was released in 1990, but it failed to win any Academy Awards. He reprised his role as the most endearing doorman in the world, Manny Cordoba, in 1995's The Single Guy. Jonathan Silverman, who plays Borgnine, made a joke about how much more energetic he was than the whole cast put together. Probably making jokes in between takes, first on set and last to depart. During Merlin's Shop of Mystical Wonders in 1996, Borgnine displayed his daring side. He told the tale of Merlin's stolen monkey toy, a cursed one that banged cymbals, in this offbeat fantasy picture. Very much so. Despite the film's initial flop, it managed to acquire a cult following because to Mystery Science Theater 3000's hilarious roast of it. In the same year, Borgnine boarded a bus and traveled around the United States to visit with admirers and take in the sights. A documentary named Ernest Borgnine on the Bus was made on his voyage in 1997. Despite everything that was going on, he still managed to visit VA hospitals as part of the National Salute to Hospitalized Veterans program. Borgnine returned to the uniform in 1997. Tom Arnold, who played the son of Rear Admiral Quentin McHale, took over the role and the name after him in McHale's Navy. He made a similarly hilarious and outrageous appearance in Comic Baseball a year later, playing a rich entrepreneur. Next, SpongeBob SquarePants Mermaid Man, his most famous part in his later years. Borgnine reveled in his position as a former superhero with Tim Conway, Mikhail's Navy chum, who played Barnacle Boy. Everyone, from kids to adults, adored him. Nickelodeon aired all of his Mermaid Man episodes as a memorial after his death, which is really heartwarming. It wasn't the end for Borgnine. He made his Hallmark movie debut in 2007's A Grandpa for Christmas. He became the oldest nominee in Golden Globe history at the age of 90 for the touching film about a distant grandfather's reconciliation with his granddaughter. Concurrently, he managed to jot out his life story, Ernie, which read more like a let's sit out and share some amazing stories than a solemn memoir. Borgnine tragically played a husband seeing his wife's death in the 2009 season finale of ER. For the first time in nearly 3 decades, he received an Emmy nomination for his performance, which was so poignant. He continued to prove that age was nothing more than a number that year, starring in Another Harvest Moon at the age of 92. He made a grand exit from the film industry. Red, an action flick, was released in 2010, and he completed his last picture, The Man Who Shook the Hand of Vicente Fernandez, in 2011. He also made a humorous appearance on Saturday Night Live with Morgan Freeman in 2010. Borgnine maintained his charm, busy schedule, sense of humor, and devotion to his admirers throughout his career. Ernest Borgnine was the undisputed champion of his day. Two iconic figures, Borgnine and Martin, who followed quite different careers but are both legendary. The good part begins now. Ernest Borgnine, an actor, told a tale that encapsulates Dean's charisma. Borgnine overheard Martin remark, "Now there's an actor," after filming a scene. Let that sink in. A compliment is handed to you as if it were nothing out of the ordinary by the king of cool, Dean Martin. Borgnine was taken aback. He had always had a soft spot for Dean, but to hear such glowing praise, well, it must have made his week or year. Later on, Borgnine gushed about how easy it was to click with Dean and praised him as the most amazing man. They became fast friends and remained so for the rest of their lives. Regarding Dean, let me tell you something. He preferred to keep his distance from the limelight. He lifted others despite being a megastar himself. Because of this, Dean served as an example to the rest of Hollywood, where egos and competition are commonplace. With a pep talk, a cocktail, and the ability to make anyone feel like $1 million. It's worth celebrating with a glass. We get more than just Hollywood tales from Ernest Borgnine's recollections of Dean Martin. They demonstrate the power of genuine compassion and the transformative power of encouraging words. Borgnine had a front-row seater to the truthful Dean Martin, and the man was much more than the charismatic idol we saw on TV. Although Martin gave off an air of effortless sophistication, he was really a down-to-earth guy, just like your neighbor who still mows the lawn, who was full of humility and heart. Borgnine frequently remarked on how Dean was unique among celebrities, distinguishing him from the pack. There was no phony here. You could always count on him to make you feel special. He was naturally generous, it wasn't an act. Not to mention, the man was excessively generous. Is all you need someone to listen, commiserate, or support you right now? You could trust Dean. The comedy is also important to remember. Martin possessed the ability to tell jokes that could pierce through even the most difficult of situations. Borgnine frequently remarked on how Dean's humor served as the bonding agent between their friendship. No matter how bad things go, he's the type of person that can lift your spirits and make you feel better. But there was a man behind that perpetual grin, and he carried his problems with him, struggles that he hardly showed anyone. Their intimate relationship allowed just a select few, like Borgnine, to experience that side of him. The capacity to maintain his humanity in the face of overwhelming popularity was Dean's greatest strength, not his talent alone. His generosity was the one quality that set him apart from his admirers and contemporaries, though. Borgnine witnessed everything. Everything that makes Martin special, his charisma, his modesty, and those rare moments when he reveals himself to be a regular guy with a huge heart. Also, remember that Borgnine and Martin friendship? Unlike those were friends because we worked together deals in Hollywood, this one was more serious. It was authentic. Borgnine was the serious, diligent kind, and Martin was the epitome of effortless style. They were so unlike each other, yet they managed to operate together. Trust, humor, and a genuineness that is uncommon even outside of Hollywood formed the foundation of their everlasting connection. Finally, Borgnine's anecdotes serve as a reminder that, despite his notoriety, Martin was essentially a good friend at heart. A great human being, and someone with whom we would have all liked to have a drink. You don't often see a friendship like the one Borgnine and Martin enjoyed, particularly in the entertainment industry. Regardless of the ups and downs, they remained united. Borgnine was there for Martin through the unfathomable tragedy of losing his son, Dean Paul Jr., in an airplane crash. Their support was genuine and meant more than words. Neither did he provide any advice or dismissive platitudes. As is sometimes the case with friends, he simply walked up, presumably armed with a strong shoulder and perhaps a bottle of something significant. Not only that, but it went both ways. Am I any good at this? Borgnine asked himself while he was having a lull in his career. We all have those moments, and Martin was there to support him. Not exactly pom-poms and cartwheels, but he would nonetheless call or visit Borgnine to remind him of his brilliance. Beyond measure, to all those fortunate enough to have known him. Snap out of it, you're amazing, he would essentially tell you while shaking your shoulder. However, there was more to their bond than that. These two were masters of belly laughter. The basic pleasures of hanging out were what brought them the most satisfaction, whether they were on set or chasing golf. Everyone on set had a great time thanks to their hilarious banter, which might have doubled as the show's comedy. Their connection was unique because of how genuine it was. They ignored the superficialities and zeroed in on the other person's essence. Just two dudes that cared for one another deeply, without vanity or phony grins. Finding a clean car in Los Angeles after it rains was akin to their bond, which was extremely rare in a culture filled with picture shoots and superficial connections. What matters most, no matter how famous or wealthy you are the ones who stick by you no matter what, and Borgnine and Martin's relationship is a perfect example of this. When things go wrong in life, or even on the golf course, it helps to have a friend who will listen to your jokes, share in your laughter, and maybe even pay for your dinner.